Welcome to the Escape the System channel. I'm Joe Barnes, author of the books Do the Work You Love and The Rebel Code. Now in today's video we're going to be discussing the 5 books you need to read to change your life. Now these aren't necessarily my 5 favorite books of all time, although 1 or 2 of them are on my all-time favorite list, but I've chosen 5 books from a wide range of the personal development field, hopefully covering all bases of your development so you know all the knowledge needed to live both a happy and successful life. So without further ado, let's jump into our book number 1. And our first book is As a Man Thinketh by James Allen. Now don't get fooled by the size of this book. As a Man Thinketh is actually a very small book. What this is a collection of James Allen's works, about 5 of his books rolled into one. As a Man Thinketh is something you can read probably in an hour or just over. It's an absolutely brilliant book written at the turn of the 20th century, and it's all about how your thoughts determine your life. Now, you've got to be smart in your understanding of applying this concept. Your thoughts determine your life, but in a slow way. It's not a case that I think of something and that's automatically going to manifest itself in my life soon after. James Allen explores the relationships between our long-term thinking, our habitual thinking, and how over a certain extended period of time that will create the life and the environment we see around us. He makes us aware of this intricate relationship between our thinking and our environment. It is probably one of the most powerful things you are ever going to read. And if you can take the concept on board and apply it to your life, you can change your life in amazing ways. Now, some people are critical of this book because what James Allen says is, you don't get what you want in life. It isn't about your desires. You get what you are. So your life, your circumstances and reality is a reflection of who you are as a person. And a lot of people get upset by that or offended by that. They say, well, I've got cancer. Was that my fault? Or I'm living in this shitty situation. Is that my fault? Is it not because of my upbringing? Is it not because of the environment I was born into? I don't choose to look at it that way. I look at that as empowering because it gives me responsibility. It says, hey, you are responsible for your situation, your surroundings. If you don't like it, you can actually change it. And the way you change it is through your thinking, channeling your thoughts to what you want, channeling your thoughts to all that's good in life, and not allowing your thoughts to slip into negativity, not allowing them to slip into self-doubt or get distracted either. So it's a brilliant little book, and 2 reference points I just want to bring up. I remember listening to, I think it was Tony Robbins on the Tim Ferriss podcast years and years ago, and Tim Ferriss asked him, Tony, if there was one book you could gift to other people or recommend to other people, what would it be? And I think without hesitation, Robbins said, As a Man Thinketh. He knows how powerful that book is. I was also recently watching a film on Netflix called Brian Banks. It's all about an American football player who was falsely accused of rape when he was a 16-year-old and went to prison and went through this huge struggle to clear his name, to get rid of his criminal record so he could go carry on or embark on this NFL career that he was heading on the right path to doing until he was falsely accused of rape. Anyway, there's a scene in prison where he is struggling in prison, but he has fortunately a wise mentor who reaches out and helps him. And what does this mentor give him to read? You've guessed it. As a Man Thinketh. Anyway, that's my number 1 book, and now we'll move on to number 2, which is The 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene. Before I tell you about this book, I want to tell you a quick story. I released my first book back in 2012. It was called Screw the System at the time. Now, I was very naive. I had spent 4.5 years writing this, albeit on a part-time basis. I'd put my heart and soul into it, and I'd had a mentor when writing the book. I'd gone through it endlessly, made sure it could be as good as it could be. And even though it was my first attempt, I'm quite certain that it was a very good book. Now, I assumed that just because I'd created this good book, that if I let it out to the world, if I put it up on Amazon, then because it was a good book, then automatically I would get sales and I would become this best-selling self-help author. As I said, I was incredibly naive, and over the years I've learned a very powerful lesson, and it's a lesson you learn in the 48 laws of power. And that is, it's not enough to succeed in this world by being a good person or by having a good product. That alone is not going to cut it. You have to understand how this world works, and you have to develop an ability to influence other people. And that's why this book, 48 Laws of Power, is so brilliant and why it's so necessary for your education as someone who is looking to succeed as an entrepreneur, creator, or artist. It's not just about being good and doing good work. You have to know how to get your product or whatever it might be in front of the right people, in front of the right audiences. And this book will teach you the psychology on how to do that. Some people are critical of this book because they say it's very Machiavellian and scheming and all about using people. But I think you can take this book, and I like to consider myself to be a good person. I can take this book and apply the lessons without having to hurt or abuse or use anybody. I'm confident I can do that, and I'm sure you can do the same. I just want to read a few of the laws out to you, a few of my favorites. Law number 6, court attention at all costs. And we move on to law 13. When asking for help, appeal to people's self-interest, never to their mercy or gratitude. Then we move on to law number 32, play to people's fantasies. Law number 34, be royal in your own fashion. Act like a king to be treated like one. So this is all about how you influence people. And Robert Greene is a big fan of history. I'm sure he must be a historian because he uses loads of historical examples to show how people rised up the ranks of power and influence in the years gone by, and also how those lessons still apply today. So my second book for your overall education and development when it comes to changing your life is the 48 Laws of Power. So the third book on my list of books to change your life is The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. Now I put this book on the list because it's such a powerful concept. The book itself wasn't for me the most entertaining of reads. I felt that it could have been half the size it was. So I didn't get a huge amount of enjoyment reading it, but the concept is just so powerful. What Eckhart Tolle teaches you is that most people are either in a state of thinking about the past, which can possibly lead to depression, or they're in a state of thinking about the future, which can possibly lead to feelings of anxiety. So few people have the ability to be present right now, to live in this moment and not have thoughts of the past or thoughts of the future running through their head. And if you're able to do that, if you're able to perfect this skill of keeping yourself in the now and limiting the amount of time you spend in the past or future, you're going to have a far happier and more fulfilling life. Not only that, I find this book is brilliant in terms of being able to get the best out of yourself, in terms of being able to perform in certain situations. I'm a big tennis player, so I've taken lessons from this book onto the tennis court. You know, I don't want to be thinking about, oh, I just screwed up on the point before, or I don't want to be thinking, okay, I'm only 3 games away from winning this match, or I might lose this match, thinking about the future. I need to be grounded in the now, in the present. And I think that applies to so many different lines of work. So the reason I've included this book on my list is it's brilliant for your state of mind. It gets you in a zone where you're grounded, you're present, and you're not distracted in any way. And for that, I really, really recommend it. Also, it's got a very powerful story in it. Eckhart Tolle, the author's story, he was depressed and suicidal. He was an academic working in London. I think he's originally from Germany. This is years and years ago, and he was so down he considered killing himself at one point. But on one night when he was feeling particularly depressed, probably at his lowest point, he talks about not being able to take it anymore and realizing that he's almost talking to himself, that there's an I and there's a me. And when he was able to separate those two concepts, the I and the me, the I being his essence, who he truly is, the me, this constant chatter, these constant thoughts going through his mind, when he was able to separate the two things, it gave him a moment of enlightenment that completely freed him from all of his problems. So basically what he's saying to you is, all of that garbage you think about all the time, all of that annoying mental chatter that you have, it's not you. Don't believe it. Ignore it. Completely rid it from your mind, and you'll be amazed at how much freer you feel, and amazed at how you can actually live without all of these thoughts. They don't benefit you in any way. And this book is great at teaching you that, and for that reason it made the list as my number 3 book. Moving on to number 4. And the 4th book on our list is PsychoCybernetics by Maxwell Maltz. Now this book takes another fascinating look at an area of personal development. And you'll understand how with each book I'm building on different areas of how you need to educate yourself and develop. And self-image and identity is so important. And there's something really powerful at the start of the book when he talks about Dr. Maltz. Maxwell Maltz was the author, who figured out that a person cannot rise above how he sees himself or herself. So you can think positively all you want. You can keep reminding yourself to think positively. But if underneath that all you don't have a strong and positive self-image, it really doesn't matter how positively you think. You can't outthink this image you hold of yourself. And this is something that the book teaches you. It teaches you how to have a great identity, and because of that, and it teaches the other thing it teaches you, is that we tend to conform to our identities. Now, Maxwell Maltz, the author, discovered this because he was a plastic surgeon initially, and he operated on thousands of people. In most cases, he would do the surgery. The people were happy with their results and they went away feeling good. But in a significant amount of trials, he would do the corrective surgery, say remove a lump on the nose or whatever it was that the person made them ugly, and they would have the surgery but still believe that they were ugly, even if what they considered the disfigurement was removed. Now this was something he found fascinating. He thought, how can this be? And he realized it's not just about what you see in the mirror, it's how you see yourself in your mind. And if you believe you're ugly, for example, even if you're good looking, if you believe you're ugly, all you're going to notice is the things that are bad or wrong with you. I think a great example of this is actually Michael Jackson. Now, early 20s, he was a good-looking man, but he'd grown up thinking he was ugly. His dad told him he had a big nose, he had a bad case of acne as well, and that's all he focused on. He believed he was ugly, and how did he turn out in the years and years to come? On a physical level, his appearance got worse and worse, unfortunately. He became what his self-image was, and the book points out to you, it doesn't use that example in the book, that's just my example, but the book points out to you that you are going to become how you see yourself over the years and decades. If you believe that you are great and you're destined for greatness and that you are a great person, you will become one and your life will reflect that. If you believe that you're no good and not good enough, it doesn't matter how hard you try and all the positive steps you take, ultimately you're going to be limited by that identity that you have. So this book, and for that reason, this book is a must read. You must learn about identity and self-image. And then we move on to our 5th and final book for this video, which is the book Excuse Me, Your Life is Waiting, written by Lynn Grabhorn. So I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, well, what the hell is this book, Joe? I've never heard of Excuse Me, Your Life is Waiting. And it's certainly not as popular as the other 4 that I've mentioned, but it did have quite a strong following, I think around the turn of the millennium. I think it's published 2001, 2002, something about that. The author has subsequently died, but nonetheless, it is a really good book, and it covers the final base of our concept of 5 books you need to read to change your life. Because whereas As a Man Thinketh, the first book we started with, explores how your thoughts impact your life, this book explores how your feelings affect your life. And I think we all have a tendency, especially when we are aware of the personal development literature, to try to monitor our thinking, to try to maybe focus it towards certain goals, or we can reach a phase where we become too analytical. We are too much in our head. And Lynn Grabhorn points out in our book, stop overthinking, start feeling. To really get through the breakthroughs, to get the breakthroughs in life, it's not just about thinking your way to success. You have to get yourself feeling inspired, get yourself feeling good. She refers to it as buzzing in the book. And the other appealing thing about the book is it's quite a fun book. Lots of fun examples. She injects energy and humor into her writing as well. So it's quite readable. It's probably considered a law of attraction book, and it's my favorite law of attraction book. I quite like The Secret. It's a good book, but I feel this goes into more depth. It's more human. It brings more examples into it, and it's enjoyable to read. So you read that to really learn how to run your energy, she calls it, how to buzz, how to get yourself feeling good, and to also remember, don't get trapped in your thinking too much. Yes, it is important to focus on what you want to achieve, but also realize that this big energy that you can create and summon is also going to create breakthroughs in your life. Lynn talks about her own experiences when she learns to what she calls run her energy and buzz. She talks about the transformation this brings about in her mortgage business and also other products that she's selling. So that completes my list of 5 books you need to read to change your life. If you have any suggestions, please leave them in the comments section below. Now, I don't have the hubris to include any of my own books in the 5 books to change your life, but I'd like to take this opportunity to at least mention my recently released book, The Rebel Code. This was released in December of last year. On the launch weeks, I did hit the bestseller list for a few of the Amazon categories. I've subsequently had a lot of positive feedback about the book. I've already got some good 5-star reviews. I would urge you guys to check it out. If you're watching this video, you must be interested in books. So this is one you might also want to read and add to your collection. I'll leave a link in the description. Go and pick yourself up a copy if you want. The ebook's going to be around $3, so you can't get better value than that. So for now, we're going to sign off. Thank you for watching. Please remember to subscribe because there will be more videos coming. Like this video, and if you want to make your own suggestions about books you've read, please leave them in the comment section below. Thanks again for watching. See you in the next one.